Of the Temple City Council, July 18th, to order. May we have the roll call, please?
Mayor, is there a report out for the closed session?
Oh, I'm sorry, the closed session. Eric?
I'd be happy to report out. We had one item on for closed session this evening. Was one item of existing litigation, Gardena versus Regional Water Quality Control Board. I received a briefing from the city attorney's office and gave the city attorney direction with regard to the processing of that case. There's no other reportable action at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Bale. Now we move to the regular city council. May we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Chavez?
Here.
Councilmember Fish?
Here.
Councilmember Yu?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mann?
Here.
Mayor Sternquist?
Here. We move to item 3, the invocation. Bishop Raymond McKinley from the Golden West Baptist Church located at 4856 Golden West will provide the invocation this evening. Bishop McKinley is the senior bishop at the Golden West Baptist Church. He has been with the church for over 17 years and serves there with several other pastors. Services are provided in English, Taiwanese, Korean, Chinese, and Mandarin. Would you please stand and join me in the invocation?
Shall we pray? Father, we thank you now for all that you continue to do for these leaders as well as their service in this community. Please allow us to remember those that are homeless, those that are hungry, those that are ill in body, ill in spirit, ill in mind, those that need our service. Bless this council now. Bless our mayor now. Bless our mayor pro tem now. Bless all of our council members and all who serve our city. We thank you for the opportunity to serve and lead in this community. Now bless them beyond measures. Bless their families and bless our community. Bless this United States of America, the land of the free, the land of truth, justice. Now we are gracious enough to realize that all that we have comes from you. We speak blessings over this city now. In your name, so it is. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Stafford, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yeah. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Did Bishop McKinley, I want to tell you, I have never seen Councilmember Chavez dance until we went to your service.
And we never want to see that again either. I'm glad Jerry wasn't there. But that was a lot of fun. That was, how long ago
Oh
now?
my goodness, was it 10 years?
That was you and I and Fernando, I think we were there,
It
the
was.
three of us. It was a lot of fun.
And Tom's wife had told me, you will never see
Yeah.
my husband dance.
It was something there just got into me.
Oh, the Spirit.
The Spirit overtook.
Spirit of the Lord.
The Spirit overtook. There you go.
But it was wonderful, and I tease Tom occasionally
That's okay.
when we're someplace and his wife will ask him to dance. I'll say, you'll only dance for Bishop McKinley.
Well, let's not get that
And
out
the
too
Lord.
much.
And the Lord, right.
And the Lord. So,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for coming this evening. Ceremonial matters, we have an update from Southern California Edison, and we have Josh Torres here this evening to provide the update. Welcome, Josh.
So thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council, for allowing me to come and provide you with this update on our emergency preparedness and response capabilities. So I'm going to be providing a high-level overview. I hope this will be the first of many conversations that we have on this topic. So if I skip over anything and you want me to come back, I'm more than happy to do that. So it's my goal that after this presentation, I hope that you will have a level of assurance that our level of emergency preparedness at Edison is leaps and bounds beyond where we were in 2011. Next slide, please. Actually, next two. Perfect. So many of you are already familiar with Edison. We are one of the largest electric utilities in the country, and we are also one of the most diverse, both geographically as well as from a customer standpoint. Next slide, please. So this is an overview of the various components of the electric system. Typically, most customers only interact with the distribution system, the stuff towards the bottom. But when we're putting our emergency preparedness plans together, we have to make sure that we take the entire grid into account, since all of these pieces are important. Next slide, please. So we refer to our emergency preparedness and response efforts as business resiliency. This includes a number of programs, policies, and procedures. Our business is keeping the lights on, and we are prepared to do that in a number of different scenarios, both natural and man-made. Our business resiliency program looks at all potential threats and associated mitigation measures holistically. Our business resiliency team is staffed with experts from around the emergency preparedness field, coming from organizations like the Federal Emergency Management Agency, California Office of Emergency Services, and various police and fire agencies at both the state and federal level. Next slide, please. So we have adopted the National Incident Management System, also called NIMS. This is a comprehensive approach to incident management that is utilized by agencies across the country as a standard and consistent way of approaching responding to emergencies. Part of this is the preparedness cycle, which you see up on screen, that outlines a process for continuous improvement in the pursuit of emergency preparedness. Next slide, please. So in the plan and organized component of the framework, we have numerous plans and procedures outlining appropriate actions in response to a variety of potential threats to electric reliability. Our strategic plans, which are at the top, focus more on corporate policy issues. Then the next level down, our operational plans provide general direction for responding to various types of emergencies, more specific threats. The tactical plans get a little bit more granular and providing specific actions that teams can take in restoring power to the grid. And then procedures dictate the individual contributors the steps that they need to take in order to actually execute all of these different plans. Next slide, please. So we have adopted the Incident Command System, which is part of the NIMS framework. This is for command, control, and coordination of Edison resources in response to emergencies. This is the same system that your first responders utilize in responding to emergencies. The benefit of us adopting this as an electric utility is that it allows us to coordinate with first responders more efficiently. So basically, our EOC speaks the same language as your EOC and other EOCs throughout Southern California. In the event of emergencies, we stand up what are referred to as incident management teams that are used to coordinate the response efforts of specific areas of Edison businesses. So basically, these incident management teams aren't the ones actually doing the work of getting the grid back together. They're coordinating the efforts, because as you bring in more resources to respond to an emergency, it's important to make sure that those are coordinated efficiently. If there are multiple incident management teams active at one time, then we'll stand up that green box, an incident support team. And basically their job is to coordinate all of those different incident management teams to make sure that they're working towards a common goal of restoring as many customers as quickly as possible. That red box that you see up at the top is our Crisis Management Council, and that's basically our C-suite executives. And so they provide strategic guidance and occasionally approval to the incident support team, but they don't actually get involved in the actual execution of the emergency response. They don't get involved in telling managers and resources where to go and what to do. It's more of a policy guidance type of a response. Please keep in mind that this is not how we operate normally. This is only for emergencies. Just because the power goes out doesn't necessarily mean that we consider that an emergency. If an incident of a particular outage is within the scope of what a local operational district can handle with their own local resources, then we don't want to get in their way. We let them do their things, follow their normal policies and procedures. But when we get to the point where we have to start bringing in resources from other parts of the utility or even outside the utility, then we will be looking at activating our EOC and standing up one of these incident management teams to help coordinate those additional resources, both internally and externally. Next slide, please. So before people can get assigned to either one of these incident management teams or an incident support team, they have to go through a very rigorous training and verification process, as you can see on screen. Currently, we have over 550 employees that are trained in incident command system and are placed on one of more than 24 either IMTs or ISTs. We have a fully staffed duty roster of employees ready to respond to emergencies 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Next slide, please. So continuing with the preparedness cycle, we have all these folks and emergencies come and go. So in between, we have exercises. So over the past several years, in addition to scaling up and bringing on more resources and cross-training additional personnel, we have also been exercising to get ready for a variety of different threats. We have evolved from having very simple exercises where the scenarios are shared ahead of time and there's lots of hand-holding to incredibly complex no-notice exercises where literally whoever is on the duty roster at that particular time gets a call and has to treat that exercise as if it's an actual real-time emergency. So that's where we are today. Next slide, please. And then the last part of the preparedness cycle is evaluate and improve. So all of these exercises are graded. In fact, we have invited many external agencies at various levels of government, from national level, FEMA type individuals, Department of Homeland Security, all the way down to local first responders, emergency and fire. So we bring in, and we also have some professional graders, people that do ICS and NIMS training for a living. These third parties come in and evaluate us and grade us. And for those of us that are assigned to one of the different incident management or incident support teams, these are part of our actual performance evaluation. So on our year-end reviews, this is one component and lumped in with all of our other additional responsibilities. So this really is part of our job for those of us that are assigned to these emergency response teams. Next slide. So I want to drill down a little bit more on external coordination, which I'm sure you're very interested in as a local government agency. Next slide, please. So within the incident command system, there are two functions that are of particular interest. One is the public information officer, which most people are pretty familiar with. Their job is to handle media relations as well as develop customer-facing communications. But for local governments, your main thing that you're interested in are the liaison officers and the agency reps. So every incident management team is going to have a public information officer and a liaison officer, and then depending on the complexity of the incident, they may have an agency rep, which is a liaison that we send out to another agency. So we send to someone else's emergency operations center. The liaison officer is also responsible for developing information that government affairs reps like myself would share with city governments, elected officials, and senior city staff. Next slide, please. So like I mentioned before, as local government, your primary interaction would be with either an agency rep or a liaison officer during an emergency activation. For most emergencies, Edison will deploy resources to county emergency operations centers. Unfortunately, given that we serve over 200 individual cities and counties, for most emergency situations, we simply don't have the resources to deploy either an LNO or an agency rep to every single individual city and county, especially when you take into consideration multiple operational periods. But we do, so we've designed our resources to focus more on the county emergency operations center. In the event that there is a more localized emergency that maybe only impacts maybe like 1 to 3 cities, we would consider sending resources directly to those cities. But pretty much for the San Gabriel Valley, if LA County EOC activates, we're going to fold our external resources up into LA County EOC and coordinate with our local government partners through there. Of course, we would still be available remotely, and we're also open to cities sending agency reps to our EOC center if they feel that they need that extra level of face-to-face coordination. And there's different ways that local government EOCs can get in contact with Edison, which I'm happy to discuss offline because we do have some information that we want to keep confidential within those of us that are involved in public safety. Next slide, please. Very quickly, I just want to go through some of the information that's available to the public. As elected officials, I know you're very concerned about making sure that your constituent needs are being met. And so during the event of an emergency, we utilize a number of different channels. Next slide, please. So something hopefully everybody is familiar with is our outage center website. This is available all the time, but obviously during an emergency, it's of more importance. And we post all of our outage-related information as well as lots of helpful tips and hints. Next slide, please. We also have information available through our mobile app. And in addition to checking the status of an outage, customers can also report outages as well as electrical hazards. So if they see like a downed wire or an object in the lines. Next slide, please. Since 2011, we have developed a very robust social media program. We utilize this normally to share relevant information with our customers, and then, of course, in the event of emergencies, it's a really efficient way to get up-to-date emergency information out to customers, and they can easily reshare it. Next 2 slides. Click one more time. Perfect. So I just want to share a couple stories of where these new enhancements to our emergency response program have been really successful. So on screen are some photos of Forest Falls, which is up in the San Bernardino Mountains. 2 years ago, I think it was like December of 2015 or maybe January 2016, we had a really freak winter storm come and dump huge amounts of snow. We usually don't get this kind of severe weather in our mountains here, and there were a couple thousand people that were stranded in snow up to their roof, and it had knocked a number of power lines out. We activated our EOC, implemented all of our plans. We coordinated with San Bernardino County Emergency Operations Center, and through that effort, we were able to put together teams of CHP officers, Edison crews, and San Bernardino County Public Works crews, and they were able to help us get to the areas that we needed to be. We had CHP escorts with County Public Works snowplows, with Edison crews following behind so they could get us into the areas where we needed to be in order to restore power to these customers who are experiencing below freezing temperatures. Next slide, please. More recently, this past winter, we had a very wet winter, and we had one particularly strong storm over President's Day weekend. We forward deployed resources. Forecasting this storm was going to have a significant impact on the grid. We stood up our emergency operations center a couple days in advance, started developing duty rosters for crews, and beginning reaching out to county EOCs for the areas that were impacted. Friday afternoon, the storm made landfall. Saturday midday, we had over 100,000 customers that were without power. Within 24 hours, that number was down to 10,000. So we've come a long way in terms of preparing for and responding to emergency events. Next slide, please. So lastly, I did want to highlight that, in addition to all the stuff that we've been doing internally, we've also been doing a lot of outreach externally with our local government partners. And we have been inviting a lot of them to come to tour our emergency operations centers and introduce them to our business resiliency team. We've had the city manager and the public safety supervisor attend some of these tours within the past 6 months, 6 to 9 months or so. And I would love for each of the council members to come and tour our emergency operations center if you're interested. So I'll be emailing each of you after tonight's presentation, and if you are interested, I'm more than happy to work with you to get you scheduled on an upcoming tour of our emergency operations center. So with that, I'll take any questions that the council might have.
Okay. Any questions, Vincent?
Where's your EOC located?
We prefer not to disclose that publicly, but I'm more than
Oh,
happy to
okay.
discuss that with you. It's a little bit of an open secret.
All right.
Wow, that's very cool.
Wait. So we don't know where your emergency is,
It's here in the San
but
Gabriel
it's
Valley.
somewhere.
They blindfold you.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we go there, do we?
So unfortunately, we do. There are certain things that we do try to keep secret as best we can because of the role that we play, providing a critical infrastructure service. So there are some pieces of information that we try not to disclose publicly.
Has Edison changed their policy on the weight that they're allowing on their poles, as we saw with the big windstorms we had a number of years ago, and a lot of them were snapping here in Temple City because of the weight? Has there
So
anything
we
been addressed
haven't
in that area?
we haven't changed our policy, but we have implemented a very aggressive pole inspection program. So a significant number of the outages that have been occurring over the past several years have been for replacing deteriorated wood poles. So we have been aggressively going around throughout the service territory, not just the San Gabriel Valley, performing inspections of poles and making sure that they are fully compliant with safety requirements of both the state and federal level.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you.
We move to item 6, public comments on items not listed on the agenda. The city council will now hear public comments regarding items that are not listed on the agenda. The procedure to address the council is highlighted on the first page of this agenda. We have one.
Steve?
Lucy, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, City staff. Just wanted to give you an update on, I'm looking at my cheat sheet, couple of items for Neighborhood Watch. First of all, as a reminder, this coming Thursday, July 20th, is our Area 7 meeting. We're having the meeting at St. Luke's. It's out of the area, but it's because we need the AC. 5:30 to 7:30, everybody is welcome. You don't have to be part of Area 7. Second reminder is August 2nd, Wednesday, is National Night Out. Of course, that is a big event that we hold for the city. Hopefully, we will have a lot of not just residents from outside the city present for our wonderful music. Hopefully, we'll have a lot of Temple City residents present as well. Thirdly, we just had our area leaders meeting, and a couple of items. The following 2 items were discussed. We wanted to bring to the City Council's attention, and I have some fellow area leaders here with me to give me the support. We would like to request the city to look into extending or hiring the motor officer for longer periods of time, because we're all witnessing crazy driving, less tolerant, less patient drivers. So we would like for the city to consider increasing the hours for the motor cop. And lastly, if there is something we can do with code enforcement with regards to the donation bins. Apparently, I didn't know this, but I was just told a lot of them are dropped off at night and picked up in the morning. So with the increased population of the transients and whatnot, they're going into these trash bins, making a mess, digging them out, and just creating, basically making a mess in our city, in our beautiful city. So we would like to see if there's something the city can do about that. So that's my report for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.
Steve Stafford?
Mayor Sternquist, council members, city staff, when those poles got snapped on Live Oak, it was OSHA's order that Edison fix the problem with the overweight poles and the poles that had too much weight on them. They made a comment, the poles are overloaded. There's too many wires on the poles, too many arms. They told Edison, when they went out and inspected the disaster, they were told to come up with a plan to get some of those power lines off the poles because they're too heavy. I remember that vividly. They had cut down poles that had shrunk like this, and the poles are supposed to be this big. I got pictures. And they're still not, I see their command plan, but where's the plan for the incident leader to go to the command post? He has to be at the command post. They can't depend on dispatch to ask, what's the ETA of Edison? Dispatch does that right now when they have wires down. That incident commander needs to be at the command post, no matter what. I see a lot of flaws in this. It doesn't make me happy because I see a lot of poles now in this city that are still overloaded. It doesn't make any sense. And really, the job they did on Live Oak, they're not finished. There are other poles that are across the street that are leaning, that are in bad shape from this. What the fire department did when they had that problem, they did was called a Plan 1. They use it in brush fires, but they can use it in major disasters. Gets a lot of equipment there. And I'm pretty sure they might have instituted a Plan 2, which gets food there for the firemen. They weren't told people were without food. If the fire department knew that, they would either go to a Plan 3 or double the food coming and get it to the people that are without power that need food. You know, Edison created a lot of these flaws because they didn't have the proper procedure. The procedure is starting to come about. It shouldn't take as long as it did. It's happening because they were told by OSHA to have a procedure within a couple of years to basically quit overloading their poles. They still haven't done that. You can't just keep dragging it out. The second thing is I see these people, like this lady said, going through the trash and leaving stuff all over the street. I'd like to know what we can do about that. Some cities have laws prohibiting these people from going through the trash. It needs to, you know, this kind of stuff, when I lived in Newport, led to burglaries. If you stop them, you can stop some of the burglaries. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, we move to, is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Okay, we move to item 7, consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be approved in a single motion as
Motion to approve.
recommended. Second. Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any objections? Okay. Then we move on to item 8. Public hearing, none. Item 9, unfinished business, none. 10, new business, none. Communications, any?
I'll do it my city manager's report.
Okay. Update from the city manager.
Mayor Sternquist, members of the council, just a couple brief things. Since our last meeting, the Board of Supervisors actually took an action to draft an ordinance increasing the maximum amount of dogs you can have licensed within a household from 3 to 4. The city council has adopted the county code by reference, but has created some exceptions. One of the exceptions includes what we have. We all have a limitation of 3 total pets, cats and dogs, in the city. The county code currently allows for up to now 4 dogs and 5 cats for a total of 8 animals total. So that's
Right, 4 dogs and 5 cats?
Yes.
That's 9.
That's 9. Excuse me, 3 dogs, 5 cats. Now we'll go up to 4 dogs and 5 cats.
And one unlicensed.
And 1 unlicensed as well. That was the other issue. And parts of the Santa Clarita Valley, there was...
Wait, you can have 9 total animals and 1 can be unlicensed?
Correct.
That makes a lot of sense.
So just to let you know, just in case there's any confusion about that, the current code as currently adopted by the city council is 3 animals total.
So nothing's changed for our
Nothing's
city.
changed, but just in case something
Somebody-
something does come up, that's...
Well, yeah, in particular because some residents may have heard it or read about it in the paper, but the county changing the
Right,
rules. And generally, the knowledge was that we're following the county rules. That they may think, oh, great, now we have 9.
Right.
you know, but
Well, we
for
might
us, it's still 3.
have a lot of residents who have 9, then we might have to adjust that number for them.
So just to let you know that's out there. Additionally, as well, hearing about the donation bins, we've actually been tackling that issue, particularly the one near the Hat in Office Depot. Well, any others around town, just let us know about. We are kind of trying to proactively look for those as well. But we have to work with the property owners to actually, most of those are located on private property. But there are some parts of the code that we can enforce that exist now. That's what we've been doing, and working collaboratively with the property owners to try to alleviate those concerns.
Are there some general rules that they go by as far as how often they pick up? Or are they supposed to pick up every day, or is that just?
There's not any general operating rules related to that, but unkempt, those kind of things, those are the things that we're kind of going in.
So it's up to the bin company and the property owner where it sits as to how often they pick up, maybe?
Correct. Yeah, from an operational standpoint, but if it's untidy, those kind of things, that's kind of the way we've been approaching it, so.
And I've seen the yellow bins. Do we have other companies that are doing this?
Yes, there's a
Yes.
few others throughout
Yes,
town that
by Home
we've,
Depot.
some of which we've
Not
worked with to
Home
actually
Depot,
remove the
Office Depot.
bins, and others that we continue to work with to make sure that they are kept in better condition. So we'll continue to do that and step up our efforts. Lastly.
They don't need city permission for those.
They do
things.
not, sir, no. Not on private
Not
property
on
like
private
that
property.
is.
Yeah, we went through that.
Well, not if there's something in the zoning laws.
I can go back and double check on the zoning side as well.
Because we do
There's-
regulate even on private property. to
We
a
do,
certain extent.
absolutely, in terms of use and activity. I'll go back and double check on the
So
zoning
maybe if
side,
we
sir.
don't, then maybe
Maybe we
they
start
can
to
come
think
out
about it.
recommendation is what we can add to the zoning.
We can do that as well, absolutely.
You know, Brian, I have a question, and this
Sure.
is kind of on the same lines. I know that there's a lot of rights with the homeless with their things that we can't, that if you arrest a homeless person, you have to impound their possessions.
Correct.
But what if their possessions are abandoned? Then can the city go pick them up and do something with them, throw them away or something, or?
We cannot
How does that get?
It gets into a little bit of a gray area, but generally, anybody's property like that, if there's a claimant towards it.
Even if it's on city, and the only reason is because I've noticed sometimes the shopping carts with lots of things in it
Yes.
are left behind, like the bus stops, and there's nobody around. It's just left there. So
You have to give notice. Or you have to be able to prove that it in fact has been abandoned, which does the same thing as giving notice, because you have to leave it there for a sufficient period of time for somebody to claim it. If it has a known owner, then the city has to take it and store it
Right.
until it's
Okay.
claimed for it
that's what I
and
was
hold
trying
it
to
for a certain
avoid,
period
was
of time.
the
And then if
store
it's,
it part.
if it's not claimed within a certain period of time, then you can dispose of it. Some materials the city can dispose of immediately if they are a health and safety issue, if,
Okay.
like soiled bedding material or actual waste material can be disposed of, hazardous material can be disposed of, but a lot of materials that we might consider to be waste are in fact not property, and you have to store it.
Okay,
That sounds.
just thought I'd ask.
Sure.
Thank you.
Lastly, related to Las Tunas beautification, we're working with Gonzalez Goodall Architects. We're actually going to be setting up a meeting with the standing committee, which is Councilmember Chavez and Councilmember Yu, in the next couple weeks to kind of come back and show some ideas and thoughts about beautification.
That will include the sign on the Arcadia Temple City.
That will be a
sign.
set. That will be a phase of that. First phase will actually be looking at the downtown core. The next phase will be looking at other exterior elements, including that signage as well.
So, but when you say the first stage and the second stage, because that seems like that's pretty low-hanging fruit.
Yeah,
can't that move into the first stage?
We've talked about it as well, but it's we're working on both.
Okay,
Can I ask
I'll
that?
make it a priority, yes.
thank you.
Can I ask that the Chamber of Commerce sign be included in one of those stages?
We haven't looked at we've looked at this sign, but we haven't looked at the Chamber of Commerce sign.
Okay,
Where is their sign?
right in front of the Chamber of Commerce.
They don't want to replace it with their own fee? They want us to do it? Just ask.
I mean, we could ask, but I'm
Have we
assuming.
ever asked?
No? Can we ask?
Sure, could always ask.
Okay.
Well, it seems that that obviously is a
But-
portion of that would, of our contribution of 70-some thousand would be good use for a sign there.
Well, we own the property.
Right.
But
That's
we
our
lease it
property.
for a buck.
Yeah, I know. Hey, well aware of that.
Okay,
Mayor Sternquist, that concludes my report.
okay.
Oh, Brian, can you tell us the latest on 5800, the parking lot?
Oh,
Sure,
yes, it looks
5800
great.
is, we are getting into the final stages within about the next month or so, and we haven't planned a grand opening yet because we're still waiting on some final touches throughout, but it should be within about the next 3 to 4 weeks that we should go through final walkthroughs with that project.
Talking about the ad hoc looking at different areas, is this the same ad hoc that looks at the Primrose property and?
That's a different standing
Okay.
committee. That's Mayor Pro Tem Mann and Councilmember
That's
Yu.
for future
That's the future
development.
properties.
Just, I wanted to, since the Primrose property now has the green screen up fencing, the RV that used to be parked behind that Primrose, the city's property, has now moved into the parking lot and is now in the parking lot 24 hours, 7 days a week.
We'll take a look.
So a couple of people who have RVs in storage on Rosemead Boulevard, they pay for storage for their RVs at one of the, next to Jane's, next to the Pregnancy Help
Yeah.
Center. They asked me if they could store theirs for free also.
No,
What'd you tell 'em?
I told them to call Brian Cook.
There we go.
we'll follow up, Mayor.
Okay. Update from our city attorney.
Mayor and council, we have a couple memos coming to your staff. There's been a couple bills that have affected, one affects prevailing wages and notifications. I wasn't going to provide that to the council, but I certainly can if you're interested. But we do have a memo that we keep updated and we give to code enforcement staffs in a number of our city clients. It has to do with just the question that Councilmember Fish brought up, which is how you deal with the property of homeless. I'll pull that out and I'll send it to the council in
Thank you.
case you have an interest for that. That's all tonight.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any council reports?
Nope.
Nope.
None? Okay. I think I'm going to ask Councilmember
Look at you.
Fish to report on the library ad hoc
Wonderful.
committee.
About our field trip?
Yes.
Okay, this past week, we went to, and please remind me,
Hacienda Heights.
Hacienda Heights. We visited the Hacienda Heights Library, which they, I believe about 18 months ago, is that about when they completed a almost complete renovation, exactly like what we have planned. And it's also very close in size. So we went to see that. It's a wonderful, wonderful facility. They were able to answer lots of questions for us as far as timing, as far as the layout. We got to see the blueprints. They shared with us the different aspects of the building that they were able to save for, obviously, for money reasons. And then they also shared with us a lot of the new technology that the libraries are coming up with. So it was extremely educational. I loved it. I wish everybody could go and see it. It's very exciting to walk into a brand-new library, and everything in the library is brand new. I mean, the furniture, the fixtures, there's just this feeling of great pride to know that we're going to have that in the future. We do have another trip planned for the ad hoc
La Mirada.
August 1st.
La Mirada Library.
August 1st, though, right? So, again, I'm not too familiar with that library, so I'm assuming it's probably the same thing as far as size. So we're kind of getting an idea. We did meet our building project manager, which was great. He actually lives in Glendora, and he's going to be also be working on the Live Oak Park Library. So he's going to be in town, which is going to be great. So that's my report. I'm very excited.
Now, are we doing these trips to get an idea of what we want to do in our library? I thought that was already, that's not already set in stone, or are we
No,
still kind of developing ideas to what we want to have in our library?
I think
We're-
we're
yeah.
at the
Understand.
process where we are going to have an architect that will draw up the plans. The county will handle pretty much everything. I think Councilmember, you is our liaison to that. Who is? We said we were going to have someone who would just kind of,
I think it's
No, that's
Touch base.
that's us as city staff and our city
It's
engineer.
Oh,
Ali.
okay.
Ali, isn't it
oh,
Ali?
Lee. Okay. So at this point, though, I think.
So there's no
we-
design at all right now, right? We're
No,
still-
no. What you
No.
approved back when you
Just the
approved
money.
you approved the money, but you approved just an idea of
Right.
what kind of the layout would look like. This is just to get a little bit a sense of
Makes
what
sense.
similar type projects
Good.
the county's been doing, and so you get a sense of perspective.
What we can do. and
Yeah,
not do.
what you can do and what you can't
Lessons
do.
learned, maybe.
And that's
Good.
a big thing of what we've been going through. In
That
fact,
is, yes.
what we'll be going through is, and talking with La Mirada as well, and some folks that are there that may be interacting with this project as well, is kind of some lessons learned through that process.
And so where are we on the timeline, so to speak? I mean, we're
The county Community Development Commission is they are the project managers, so they will be hiring an architect in the next 2 to 3 weeks and finalizing that contract with the architect. I did sit as part of that, got some sense of some of the candidates that they looked at, and that should be coming back. We'll be able to kind of publicly announce that once that's finalized with
So
the
do they
CDC.
hire an outside architect, or they
Yes.
they don't use anybody in-house?
They use people from the outside.
Oh, okay, for those
Right.
kind of projects?
Yeah, or they use someone from Public Works.
Oh.
And actually, just on that note, because I also do libraries and other things, that's why I purposefully stay away
Sure.
from our project.
I think one of the things that it was nice for us to go out and see, Councilmember Chavez, was that footprint of the remodel was very similar
Good.
to our
Exactly.
library. And what was astounding to me is that when we walked in, it's, I believe, 1,000 square feet approximately, the one we went to visit.
1,000 square feet less than the existing.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
it's a
small.
little bit smaller.
Well, I thought it was 500 square feet. Ours is 500 square feet larger, going
Yes.
to be.
Yes, yes.
So theirs was 1,000 square feet, and it was amazing because it looked huge because of the way they staggered the ceilings and the lighting. You would have never thought that the library we saw was comparable to the size of our library.
Right.
And one of the nice things was that because the project manager was there, I was able to ask him, can you give me an idea of, were you over budget, were you at budget? They actually were a little bit under budget, which was nice. And so I said, well, how much did it cost? And then I said, oh, that's about $355 a square foot. So it was kind of nice to be able to see the numbers, hear the numbers, and know that we have approximately 4 million, right?
3.95.
Little
yes,
bit
Barb.
less.
Approximately $4 million. And we could possibly have some money left over to possibly work on other things in the library too, which it would be kind of nice if we could stick to that amount. So, and it was interesting that he said they don't foresee our library taking more
We were very
than
surprised.
18 months.
We were very surprised with that.
Between 12 and 16, he said 18 would be way down the road. So that was nice to hear also.
Isn't that what our contractors told us on our houses?
Thanks.
Did you get a sense of, talking with anybody, that their use has increased? Are there more people using the library now because of the improvements? Or did you ever get into that at all?
Definitely, they had a separate teen area.
That was new.
After, after the school hours, that it's just filled with teens. They love it. And one of the reasons why is because every table has these really neat, I'm going to say contraptions because I don't know what you call them, but little elements where you can hook in your Wi-Fi, charge your cell phones. So
Your
that was
laptops, too, all
really,
these,
really
yeah, they
neat.
love it.
The technology was the latest you can imagine. Even in the meeting room, the screens that came down and the adjustments. So It's going to be beautiful.
It's really a science. I mean, one of the things I was so impressed with was just the colors that they picked out made it look larger. I mean, they keep all of those things in mind. The colors of the shelvings, which for me, I'm used to having a library where all the shelving is dark and it's wood. And all their shelvings were white. I've never seen anything like that. And it just made the library just so beautiful and open and light. So it was nice to get an idea of that.
I just said I should keep myself out of it, but I think we should have some say in the final product, and
Yes,
I think
and
that's
we-
why
and we are.
That's why our
Yeah, and
subcommittee needs to stay involved.
yeah, and your funding agreement speaks to some general big concepts about what kind of alternatives there will be, baseline type of
Not
idea.
only alternative, it's just along the lot design decisions. I think, while I purposely stay away, but I think our councils should stay involved in making those decisions.
They did say that we are going to, obviously, we don't have the last say on a lot of the stuff, but they are going to be asking us as far as the furnishings and different things and give us choices of what we want to do. So that was nice.
You might
But like I
want to
said,
find out
I've-
when all the different
Right.
milestones and
Yep.
when.
Right.
And that's what we'll be reporting back on that as well.
The nice thing is that because I'm serving on the library commission, tomorrow's our meeting. And I see all these
Those
people
people.
come, facility people come, budget people come, and so it's just very easy to put a bug in their ear about, what about this, or something. So it really was worthwhile, I think, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next one. And I'm going to ask William, because we just had one, to report on our city attorney performance evaluation ad hoc.
Sure. Yeah, actually, just earlier, right before this meeting and right before our earlier closed session, we had both Mayor Sternquist and myself are part of the ad hoc for the city attorney's evaluation. We had a good discussion with our city attorney, and we are going to move forward to. We're going to be scheduling a meeting with the ad hoc ourselves to look at how to move forward with the actual evaluation, and then bring that back to full council.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Chavez?
Are we on item 15 now?
Yeah, we just did move,
Oh.
we transitioned
Okay.
quietly.
Didn't know if I was reporting on something or.
Well, you didn't have any others. you
Okay.
said. Okay.
All right. Just a couple of things. Just want to ask everyone to keep our sister city ambassadors in your thoughts. They left last night and should have arrived in Australia today around 1 o'clock our time.
I actually
So they've
just
been there.
joined their Facebook page.
Okay,
I didn't
good.
even know they had a Facebook page, so that's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
So they'll be posting photos there throughout their stay, I'm sure, so.
Awesome.
Check out on that. Another congratulations to Vina Adams, who, as you know, is the grandmother of our deputy Rick Adams, who turned
Oh, yes.
100 years young this past week. Had the pleasure of attending her birthday party on Sunday. Jerry was there. Jerry, did you post the photos yet, or? Yes. So those photos you can see on Jerry's website. A lot of people there, and she looked great. Got along very well, and it was a good event. And then lastly, just a big shout out to our Parks and Rec for another successful Campalooza. You know, I think I had mentioned I'd been kind of doing the Little League tournaments at Live Oak Park for the last couple of weeks, and Friday night was a beautiful night. It was a little warm, but cooled off. I was standing on home plate at the park, looking out, and it was just kind of one of those moments where, you know, you've got the Little League teams there, you've got all the stands that are filled, and you look out in the field and you see all these tents and all these stuff. People are playing and running around, and thinking to myself, this is really Temple City at its best. And it was just a great view, and I wish I could have captured it. I wish Jerry had been there next to me taking a photo of it, but it was just amazing. I mean, the weekend, the whole park, and our Parks and Rec, that's such a great job in getting all those people together and just keeping everything organized. And it's walking around, it sounds like everybody's having a great time. So shout out to them. They did a great job, to Kathy and her staff for that.
And did Peggy go this year?
Peggy was camping out,
Peggy's
yes.
a trooper.
She was a trooper. She was there, and so was Brian H.
Oh, good.
And his two boys were running around.
Nice. So cute.
Yeah, so.
Really nice.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Fish?
I have just a couple of things. Wanted to remind everyone that next Wednesday is our sheriff's meeting. It's Wednesday, the 26th, in the community room at 7 a.m. And if anyone has questions about anything that pertains to the sheriff's department, our captain is usually there. Our patrol deputies are there. They give a very nice presentation, and they also serve a full breakfast. I know it's a little early, but I'd like to invite the public. I also wanted to remind everyone that we still do have our citizens on patrol. I don't know what you call it. Volunteers on patrol. Thank you. Volunteers on patrol, which is actually headed up by Deputy Harrington. If anyone's interested, we do have information at City Hall. You can contact us. You can contact the Sheriff's Department. You can come to the meeting on Wednesday. We always need concerned citizens that are willing to give up a few hours and volunteer to make sure that our city is safe. And then the last thing, I just wanted to say that for the 4th of July, I attended 2 neighborhood barbecues that I was invited to. It was a very nice experience to get out there and visit some neighborhoods that where I didn't know a lot of residents. I met a lot of people. It's a great idea. One was actually on my street. It's a great idea to get to know your neighbors, especially with some of the increase in our burglaries, to know who's at home, who's working, to be able to share contact information if you're going out of town or on vacation, to watch each other's homes. Our sheriff's department does a wonderful job, but with 36,000 residents, that's a lot of people. So, it still is up to us to help our residents, help ourselves, our neighbors, and help the sheriff's department. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mann?
I actually want to share something interesting. It's about trash pickup, and I didn't realize this, and I've lived here so long. As you know, July 4th was on a Tuesday, and so on my street, normal pickup days are Tuesdays and Fridays, and so all my neighbors on that week assumed that the trash was going to be picked up on Wednesday. And it's actually not. They actually skip that day if it's a federal holiday. I don't know why I never knew that, but I just thought I'd share.
It's always been that way. And I think if you go to the Athens website, they even tell you that.
Well,
It tells you exactly which days are off.
I went to Athens website, and it says they on a federal holiday they pick up the following day.
For our city?
Yeah, there was a little confusion about that.
So that's why there was a little confusion on my part.
So should it be the following pickup day?
It's the following pickup day.
It's the following pickup day.
Not
So
the
it's
following
not
day.
worded right.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's.
Well, just to mention Athens, and I'm not looking at anybody over there, but
We're not
He's in a
singling
different
anyone
role.
out.
He's in a different
The
role
sheriff
today.
deputy.
yes. There are 2 Saturdays in a row we didn't have green waste pickup. So my neighbors were all letting me know that.
Okay.
For some reason, it's always been picked up, but for 2 Saturdays, our block was missed.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
Well, that's all I have.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a couple of things. I want to let you know that, did I miss Vince? Vince?
That's okay.
Sorry.
That's good. Since we're talking about trash, I'll just add a little bit. I mean, I also noticed on my street there were some cups, and I thought we have sweeping every week, right?
Correct.
But there were some cups that are curved up in there for weeks. So I don't know, maybe the truck just never get to for whatever reason. But actually what I want to share actually this evening is coyote. And I know it's always been an issue all over the place, but it just happened to me. So, I mean, I was out actually feeding my cat. Well, actually my wife was feeding the cats, and then I was on the other side of the street, so we were talking to each other. And we thought we saw a dog, and then here come running down my street in broad daylight was a coyote. So I thought, well, just happened. So, and my cats didn't even, the cats that we were feeding didn't even see it coming.
Yeah,
but we were both there.
They're scary.
So the next day, 2 days later, 3 days later, same thing happened. We were out there, and then here it came, but it's a different time of day now. It's early in the morning, and both times the sun was out. And here, the coyote ran down the street again. It's just, so I talked to Brian and indeed, there is not much we can do, but still, I just want people to, keep an eye out for your pets and, just, they're running around.
They are, they're
They
out.
are running around, so
Anything else?
that's it.
Okay. There were 4 dead birds that tested positive in Temple City for West Nile virus. So just be sure when you're out to use your repellent. None had tested positive for the Aedes albopictus, but West Nile virus, when it's hot and there's standing water, they're out. So just try and be very mindful of that. I just want to bring up something because it's been brought to our attention before, and we've talked about that, and that was the painting of the street numbers on the curbs. This past weekend, my neighbor on Sunday morning had an accident. She fell and broke her hip, and it was about 5:45 a.m., and you could just hear the sound of the fire trucks. I mean, it's pretty noisy when they're coming up, especially my cul-de-sac. They have to slow down somewhat. And there was 2 ambulances, the paramedics truck and what have you, and they went up. They were driving really slowly, looking around, and of course I'm worried about my neighbors. And then they went all the way to the end, and they came down really slowly, and I came outside, and I heard one of the paramedics or firemen say on the thing, "Oh, we found the address." So after all was said and done, and she went to the hospital, I went outside. You can barely see the 6 and the 1. But when I stood in front of her house, she has a large tree that covers
On her house.
her numbers. So her numbers were on the house, but it wasn't visible from the street. So it made me very aware. And then I went and looked at my own, and I can't even see the 3 and the 1, which made me nervous about. And I thought, I'm just going to go out and paint my own, because you just never know when you're going to have an accident. So if we can, whatever happened with that, Brian?
Sure, we actually discussed that. We're actually looking at a system with nonprofits to actually do that because it is very expensive.
Oh, right.
Unfortunately,
I know we talked about
yeah,
that,
it was
but-
it's surprisingly expensive to do that, dealing with prevailing wage issues and whatnot to do that type of service. So staff is supposed to come back with some information about how we're to solicit that from some nonprofit groups and what kind of qualifications they would do and how we would go through that. And we'll once we get that information, we'll come back to the standing committee as well.
I thought last time we talked that we were going to check with some of these
Yes.
the cities to see how well these nonprofits
Yes. And
perform.
We'll follow up on that too.
Can we actually put a timeline on that?
Sure.
And say, can we have that back within the next couple of months and have some idea of how we can move forward to
We'll do the next
implementing
30
it?
days.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And I think that's it for me with these items. Item 16, reimbursement of expenses to city officials, there are none. Item 17, additional public comments on items not listed on the agenda. Do we have anyone? Nope. Okay, I'd also like to share that my neighbor passed away a couple of days ago, and her name is Jane Strand. She's been a long-time member of our community, and her kids all went through Temple City schools, and a very nice neighbor. I will miss her dearly, and so I'd like to adjourn the meeting in memory of Jane Strand. So thank you. The meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.